Good morning, Your Worship, members of council. Can you hear me okay?
You can, yes?
Excellent. My apologies for not being there in person. I too, like many others in the community, have caught the fall bug, but I am on the mend. Wanted to provide an update to council and the community on the status of a few items pertaining to the beachfront. First item, wanted to share the great news that we have signed the letter of intent with Sunray. Sunray, as many of you know, is one of the leading hotel operators in Canada. I believe they have about 75 to 80 hotels right across the country. So they are quite excited to move forward on our beachfront. The chairman of Sunray, Ray Gupta, and his son, the vice president, Sandeep Gupta, are going to be in town next week. We'll be touring them around the beachfront, and we'll see if we can create an opportunity for all of council to meet both Ray and Sandeep. I think you'll be impressed with their vision. They both have spent a lot of time in Wasaga Beach and are thrilled about this opportunity to move forward with us. Next steps with Sunray, we will move into detailed design. Their hotel will be the first phase. We are staff quite excited about the hotel coming out of the ground first. That is very unusual. Usually hotels are on the back end of developments, so it just shows the trust and vision that Sunray have that aligns with our vision for the beachfront. So we'll be moving into detailed design of the hotel, as well as finalizing. There are a few other agreements that we need to have in place, an agreement of purchase and sale, as well as a joint venture agreement that we will engage with Sunray on. All of the details pertaining to the LOI and subsequent agreements will be shared with the public in the not too distant future. This is not intended to be secretive at all, so we will share those details shortly with the community. With respect to streets, any of you who were watching the news last night saw the tremendous impact that violent storms, flooding can have on communities. Unfortunately, this is becoming a more regular occurrence for most places around the world. So I think you all understand the imperative need for us to address flood mitigation as we move forward with redevelopment of our beachfront. That means we need to raise Beach Drive. That will also include a flood protection sheet pile wall that will be built in front of the new raised Beach Drive. That's so that we can set our beachfront up for success for the next 100 years and not have to worry every time the waves rise or the water levels come up. So that's a smart move. It's a necessary move. Unfortunately, a lot of the buildings that are down on our beachfront were built too low. They were built at an elevation that was set 100 years ago. So in order to set ourselves up for the next 100 years, we need to raise elevations of buildings as well as Beach Drive. That requires some buildings to be torn down. Kevin Lalonde is working on the RFP right now to put that out to tender to bring in a company that will assist us in the demolition of the beachfront. I want to be very clear that a lot of those costs will be part of the development, meaning they will not come out of taxpayers' pockets. As part of the joint venture with Sunray, development costs will be project costs that the town will be reimbursed for on the tail end of development. Demolition will occur over the fall, winter, early spring, and I believe the goal is to have most of the buildings out of the way by mid-May, with construction starting shortly thereafter. So we're in for 1 or 2 seasons of intense construction down on the beachfront. Beach Drive, Spruce Street, 3rd Street will all be under construction for the next little while. This is an exciting time for the community. It's immense change at the same time as well, and change is often difficult. But again, we're all looking to getting to the other side of all of this and having some infrastructure, some streets that we're proud of, and then the companion buildings that will also be of a worthy quality. With respect to Fram, have some news that is somewhat disappointing. As we move forward with the design of our beachfront, we are also working very hard to understand the financial impacts of what the development will yield. We spent a great deal of time working with Fram to try and reach a position Really a win-win position where, as a developer, they were making a good return on investment, but more importantly for us, that we were delivering a project and a financial return that was worthy of our community and that respected taxpayers' dollars. Unfortunately, the deal that we got to was just too skewed in favor of the developer. We tried to push back and negotiate this and turn it a little more in favor of the municipality, but unfortunately, we just could not get there. We have amicably agreed to part ways. The door is open to work together in the future, so this by no means was adversarial. In fact, the president of Fram Building Group said to us that we were doing the right thing. Now, I'll walk you through some of the reasons why we could not come to an agreement. A lot of this was really driven by macroeconomic conditions. For those of you that are following the real estate development world, a lot of projects in the GTA have really flatlined over the last couple of years. We are hearing from a lot in the development community that this is the worst development climate in probably 35 years. We do see right at the end of the tunnel, and we do see this rebounding. Interest rates are coming down aggressively, so we think we will be catching this on the uptrend, which is positive. But a lot of that was impacting Fram's approach to the negotiations. So I'll walk you through a few of the key areas. The first is land value. It was very important to the municipality that the municipality get fair market value for land as part of development. Unfortunately, that was not the case with Fram. We were getting what we felt was about a third of what the land was worth. And that was just really something that we could not accept. We went back and forth on a different approach pertaining to some profit sharing. So if we accepted a lower value up front, we could participate as a partner and realize back-end profit sharing. But the return on investment, when we looked in detail at the numbers, again, was just not getting us to the valuation that we felt was appropriate for these prime development lands on the world's longest freshwater beach. The next issue pertained to development charges. We were very clear from day one, and Sunray has agreed to this, that we require full development charges be paid for development on the beachfront. We do not want to be subsidizing development. Also, our DC reserve is depleted right now because of projects like the Twin Patarina Library, River Road, etc. So that is something that we were just not prepared to budge on. That became a really big issue. Fram was looking to receive rebates and also lock in at 2024 rates for the entirety of the project. Again, something that would have a dramatic financial impact on the municipality that we could not agree to. Probably one of the bigger issues, that we just could not agree to was the project for Fram. Fram is a medium to large scale developer, and the opportunity for them in Wasaga Beach, it was really a small project in their eyes. And in order for them to come to the table and make it worth their while, they required Beach 2. So they wanted Beach 1 and Beach 2 to be sold to them today at a value a third of what we believe it was worth. And then they would be given an option in their favor to exercise in the future to develop Beach Area 2. Again, for us, that was just not something that we could accept at this point in time. So we pushed back, and unfortunately, we were not able to resolve those key fundamental issues. I want to be very clear. Myself, staff, and I don't speak on behalf of council, but I think council would share this view. We all have the highest regard for Fram Development and Frank Giannone as the president. We respect the position he took. Again, I don't think he was trying to be tough with the municipality. I think he was just being overly cautious, and in our opinion, too cautious based on macroeconomic conditions. So that put us in a position where sometimes you have to say no, and the best course of action is to walk away from a deal if you do not believe it's in the best interest of our community. That's what we felt. Staff were united in this approach and in this opinion. And again, we have left the door open in the future to work with Frank Giannoni and Fram, but at this time, we think this is the best course of action for our town. That said, we're going to move quickly to address the gap. We still have Sunray, one of the leading hotel developers in the country, at the table. We're moving forward with them. Subject to council's opinion list today. We have an RFP prepared, ready to be issued today. The world looks differently to staff, and it should to council, than it did back in 2023 when this first RFP was issued under this council. At that time, we didn't have a hotel developer at the table. We needed to work with both Fram and Sunray to figure out exactly what we wanted to see on the beachfront. We now have the benefit of that knowledge and that experience. We know what we want to see. So we can actually craft a very specific RFP, which is the approach we will take between 1st Street and 3rd Street. We will not be touching Beach Area 2 as part of this RFP. It is limited to 1st to 3rd, Beach Drive to Moseley. We are looking for a mixed-use developer. Because this project is smaller in scale, the positive of this is it opens the door to a larger pool of developers that we can work with. So some of the smaller developers who may have been a little reluctant or a little shy to bid on the entire beachfront redevelopment, I think this is now within their capability to build on. So that will be issued today. We're going to have a short window, so a 4-week window. RFP will close on November 7th, and our goal is to have a new developer at the table that will work with us to implement the town's vision prior to Christmas. And I'm quite hopeful that that will work out. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions from council.
All right, thank you very much, Andrew. Questions from members of council. Councillor Timms?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. And it is indeed very disappointing information that you're sharing today, Andrew. But I firmly believe that it was the best decision for the taxpayer, and that's what this council signed up. It's sometimes difficult, but we have to think of the big picture. I do have a question. I'm just wondering if there's any possibility to allow some of the demolition to be delayed if we don't have a developer in the wings. Could you elaborate on that for the public?
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm happy to. Thank you, Councillor Timms, and through Mayor Smith. I would actually recommend proceeding. And the reason for that is most of the difficult demolition is on the lands that we intend to move forward with Sunray on. Additionally, as soon as we raise Beach Drive 5 feet, automatically a lot of those ground floors that we've been renting out to operators over the past few years is no longer workable. Just imagine standing beside a door of a store and now the street is 5 feet higher. That door no longer works. So we do need to change the elevation of buildings. So this is a brief hiccup. I believe we will move forward quickly and have someone at the table fairly quickly. The lands between 1st and 3rd, a lot of the significant development has already occurred there anyway. So we're talking about 2 fairly small buildings that need to come down. So I would recommend simply proceeding with those. But we do need this to do the demolition irrespective, because we need the buildings out of the way for proper construction of Beach Drive. I don't know if GM Lalonde wanted to comment on that at all or not.
Kevin, any further comments? All right. Councillor, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. As a follow-up, there is such a sentimental feeling about the Dard. And I've had a lot of people reaching out to me about the demolition of that building, and staff was good enough to tour council through so we could see the dilapidated state. But still, Andrew, is there an opportunity to hear from people with an interest in the heritage of that building on what components perhaps could be saved and housed until we could move into the replacement for the Dard? And is that demolition part of the project that's upcoming soon?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Tim. The Dard demolition is part of the demolition that would occur. We all have, for those of us who have been in the community for a while, fond memories of what the Dard was. I grew up there, going there as a teenager myself. We have gone through the building with a keen eye to things that we could potentially save. I think we will take those additional steps. When you go through, and we took council through a couple of weeks ago, I'm sorry to say there isn't a lot there that's really worth saving. But for example, there are some old booths that were in the building. We will likely preserve some of the flooring, pieces of the stage, the Bailey trusses that were built by the Borden soldiers back in the early 1920s. I think we'll try and preserve some of those to be used as either incorporated in the new building or as pieces of public art. So we will have an eye to trying to preserve as much as we can. But the harsh reality is a lot of the buildings down in our beachfront were not built with the highest quality materials. And we think about the bands and the fun things that went on in the buildings, but the buildings themselves were actually not built with the highest quality of material.
All right, thank you, Councillor. Next is Councillor Eagle.
Thank you, and through your worship. Thank you, Andrew. Yes, I'm sure we're all disappointed, but I'm not surprised. About a couple of months ago, I read some articles, and it was all about how many developers in Ontario were going bankrupt. So it didn't take a lot to figure out, like, this is a really tough economic time. So I commend you and the staff for working diligently on this. Tough decision to have to make, but I certainly understand it and support it and know we are doing the best for the residents of this town. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Belanger?
Yes, thank you, through the mayor. I think one thing that we should note is that in all of our original discussions over the previous council and this was a 5-phase approach to the development of Beach 1. And since the decision to complete Beach Drive as required, and the fact that Sunray is there, we're really not losing any ground or time. I believe that the first phase will be ready to go, and so I don't want our residents to feel that this is another major setback like some of the situations we had in the past. There will be development underway next year, and we're very hopeful that if you go back to the stages of the 5 phases that were originally discussed, we are very hopeful that the whole development will be completed faster than what had been originally planned back then. I believe that is an accurate statement. So if the mayor wants to comment on that later, that's great. But we're still very excited about the development. The only thing I would add is that I would like to see a little more meat on the bone as to activation through the construction. Like, I mean, clearly on the back of parking lot on Beach 2, there could be an opportunity for food trucks or something there. You know, there are certain areas on Beach 1 where we should be able to stay activated in the area of the beach bar and maybe others, and then of course the parking lot on Main Street. But very important that we still attract a lot of tourist visitation, and that the access of the beach is both easy, but also that in short order they can get to a few amenities. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Belanger. Any comments from staff with respect to the councillor's comments?
Yes, if I could just respond, we're actually paying a lot of attention to activation for next summer. So a few things we'll be looking at, as we've shared previously, the parking lot at Glenwood and Maine. We're going to be ramping that up for next season. We have a number of things we'll be implementing. We've been chatting about relocating the stage that was built on the former splash pad on Beach Drive. We will likely move that up into that parking lot area. We're looking at opportunities for where we do the large concerts on Canada Day, Memories of the Summer next season. One option is to do them right on Main Street. Bit of a different look for our community, but it's an opportunity to see what that would do for our Main Street. So we are looking at opportunities for temporary activation. We're also looking at Playland parking lot. One of the things we need to do first is confirm where the construction access points will be. That's in process right now. Once all of that is confirmed, and we'll likely know that in the next couple of weeks, then we can figure out the type of activation we can do for next season. Because we agree 100%, it's critical that we have things for tourists to do while we're under construction.
Thank you, Andrew. Any other comments? Councillor White?
Thank you, Your Worship. To you, CAO McNeil. These aren't necessarily in silos, right? Like Sunray is well aware of what's happened down at the residential component.
Absolutely. So as soon as we knew that the deal was falling through with Fram, we took the step of going down and meeting with them face to face. We wanted them to be comfortable that the municipality is moving forward, and they seemed fine with the decision. They are excited about the opportunity in Wasaga Beach. They intend to move forward. And I'm very confident that we will be in front of council in short order with a new player for the first to third component.
All right, thank you, Councillor. Any other questions or comments? Deputy Mayor Snell?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, just a comment. I think I agree with you as well, Andrew, in regards to the scope of the project narrowing now just to first to third. I think we're going to get a lot of interest from smaller developers that are going to jump at the opportunity for such a unique development for themselves. So although I'm disappointed, my end result is excitement and anticipation. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Snell. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, this is extremely disappointing. There's no doubt about it. We've spent a lot of time and effort with the Fram group in trying to work this deal out, but I think what's important for the folks of Wasaga Beach to know is that you have a council here today who is not prepared to make a deal that is not in the best interest of you, the taxpayer of this community, first and foremost. And as difficult as it was, in many ways it wasn't difficult at all because of that. And I'm quite proud that this council has had the fortitude to be able to say, no, we want to move this forward, but this is not the best deal we can get for the taxpayer of Wasaga Beach. Staff have worked hard and diligent to get another RFP ready to go out today, I believe, Andrew, with a 28-day turnaround time. This is a much smaller scope because we do have Sunray at the table to do a big part of this now. So this is a much smaller scope that I'm quite confident that we'll see some smaller type developers willing to come forward and submit something that will be acceptable and in many cases may be better in the end because of where we're at today. And so, with every good thing we do, we know there's a lot of work that has to go behind it. And it's not through a lack of trying that we didn't get to an agreement. It really is just simply that the developer had one mindset versus the municipality having another mindset, which is the ratepayers of Wasaga Beach first and foremost. That doesn't say anything negative about Mr. Giannone and his company Fram. They are a financially solid firm. They have every ability to do what it is we want to do. They simply didn't want to pay what we believe the lands are worth. And we will not, for the sake of getting something done, give anything away. We're here to represent and make sure that the taxpayer is solid at the end of this, and that we have a solid investment in development that is going to make Wasaga Beach an even better place to live, work, learn, and play. So we'll move forward. We'll see where 28 days brings us. I feel good about it, but we'll see when we see, and we'll keep moving forward from here. With respect to the demolition, I don't mind saying that it really pulls at my heartstrings, being born and raised beach boy, to see these buildings go, and especially the Dardanella. The Dardanella and the bumper car building, I think, are the two big pinches on my heart. Bumper car building, because I just spent tons of hours there on those bumper cars. But I also spent enough hours at the Dard. Some good and some not so good. But at the end of the day, the building is simply not salvageable without it costing 5, 6, 7 times what you could build a new building for today. So to the public and to those folks, and I know that there are several because I've had many chats as well, who have an absolute love and are not happy that the Dard will be coming down, be rest assured we will be salvaging every bit of material we possibly can to repurpose, and hopefully repurpose in a new Dard that will have those memories of the old Dard as part of it. Much the same as, the Grand Ole Opry, right? When it was flooded, and they took parts of that and used it in the new one. So, the Dard really is our Grand Ole Opry, and we are confident we'll make something happen there. Because the Dard building too, just for those people wondering, that particular land where the Dard is and sits on is not included in this next phase between 1st and 3rd Street either, as is Beach Area 2. Council has listened. We have heard people and the concerns of Beach Area 2. And so we want to take more time, which we can now do to figure that out, and what might be best for our community with respect to that. And this gives us a little more time to also look at how and what we can do to hopefully rebuild a new building that hopefully will be called the Dard and have some resemblance thereof. No promises, but I want everyone to know that we hear you and we're listening. So with that, we'll move on. If there's no other questions or comments, Deputy Mayor Snell, go ahead.
My sincere apologies to speak after you, Mayor Smith. I just wanted to ask Kevin, for the sake of the residents who, as you were speaking, talking about those memories and the heartstrings, who want to go down and be able to walk the beachfront before demolition begins, will we have a good communication plan well in advance of any deconstruction starting so that those folks that want to go down, take pictures or whatnot, are able to do that, or what, and not get surprised by any last-minute stuff, please?
Just before you answer that, Kevin, I think what we need to be clear on is throughout this whole construction process, the beach will not be closed off to the public. There will be several access points that you can make your way down to the beach. The beach from the curb to the water, remember, belongs to the province of Ontario. And we cannot, and nor would we ever want to block access to any of that. So I think it's important we be very clear that people will still be able to go down and enjoy the beach. They may not be able to drive on or walk on Beach Drive, obviously, because it'll be under construction, but the beach will be fully open to the public. Kevin?
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship, Deputy Mayor Snell. Just on that point, we will require the contractor to maintain some form of pedestrian corridor at strategic locations throughout, so there will be that access. We still need to be mindful of certainly accessibility, but also garbage collection, because we know that the garbage will still be an issue down on the beachfront. So we do need to maintain access for that. And we'll be very strategic around that. We'll also be strategic around how we communicate businesses, and that business is still open for those that will be impacted by construction, and those are plans that are underway right now, and we'll work through a strategy with Sandra on that. In terms of your initial question, the demolition, so I'm hopeful to have the RFP completed by the end of next week, at which point we're hoping to have it awarded within the next month or so. The timeline for when the contractor will mobilize, we'll communicate that once the award is made. We'll have a better understanding of their schedule once we do have that pre-construction meeting, and we can communicate that as well. But as you can appreciate, once they mobilize, there will be considerable site security measures in place and safety measures and delineation to avoid people from getting too close. And the contractor will need to be mindful of that as well. But as we do issue the tender and get the results back, we'll communicate the progress and the anticipated schedule at that time. We are hopeful to have the buildings done a little sooner than perhaps what was articulated earlier. In a perfect world, it'd be the end of March. But again, we'll need to understand the contractor's schedule. We've stipulated that in our draft tender document. And then concurrently, we'll be issuing the tender for the roadworks in and around December, January. So we have a contractor mobilized in April and May to continue that construction immediately following the demolition. So we're hoping for a fluid progression, and hopefully once the contractor mobilizes, it'll be as we know it's going to be an inconvenience, but we're hopeful that with some pre-planning we can mitigate as much as we can. But communication is going to be critical, signage strategy, and a lot of measures will need to be considered before we do get to that point.
Thank you, Kevin. Any follow-up, Deputy Mayor? No?